welcome to a new program. I'll be presenting for White Flag today, and White Flag is a program that was created by Sheck for the New Vision Ministries, and it gives us a chance to showcase our skills, talents, also to educate. Last week, Jason presented music theory. This week, I'll be presenting some information that will hopefully help New Vision Ministries better protect themselves, and also if they desire to become future hackers, white hat hackers, this will give them the foundation to do that. All right, so just a little bit of background, right? I just said white hat hackers. There are usually, there are some categories of hackers, and a white hat hacker are the good guys. They help out organizations to better secure themselves. Inversely, there's a black hat hacker, and they're the ones that hack for greed or for nefarious purposes or just to see the world burn. And then in between that, there's a gray hat who tiptoes the line between white hat and black hat. Hopefully, the information I teach you today will help lead you on the path to white hat hacking, or as I said, to just better protect yourself. To start off, we're going to get started with Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or HTTP. HTTP. And that is the basis of what you use when you're on the internet, right? So let's get started. All right, let's do it. We touched on it before, what HTTP is. Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And you might be asking, what is a protocol? A protocol is the communication that's used, the procedure, if you will. In New York, the protocol when you greet somebody is to dap them up, bring it in, give a little back tap. In LA, it's a dap and a pound. In Japan, for example, it's a bow. So when you're on the internet, when you're going on your web browser and connecting to a web server, you are using a protocol to communicate effectively. And the reason why this is important is because there's so many different devices on the internet, connected to the internet. You got your Macs, and you got your Dells, and you got your HPs, and they all are built differently, but the protocol is that similarity that allows them to communicate effectively. To demonstrate a little bit more about this, I'm going to use the analogy of islands and boats and ports. Usually when people talk about HTTP, they use mail orders. For example, you send an email, or you send a mail, to a mail order, and eventually you get something back in return. But I like the analogy of boats, and I'm a big fan of the manga and anime One Piece. If you haven't checked it out, please do. Great storytelling, great writing, and great action. And that has inspired me to use this boat analogy. So let's check out my computer, and I'll dive in a little bit deeper. Thank you. So I want you to think of the internet and all its connected devices like a bunch of islands, right? Some islands provide content that we're able to access. These are servers. And the person or the device that's trying to connect to the server to get something from it, those are called clients. So in this example, this would be a server. Hope you could read that. And this island will be a client. Sweet. Okay. So some islands have content that we need to know a secret in order to access. Like you might need a password to get on that island. And some islands even have more islands behind them, hidden from plain view. For the most part though, if we want to reach an island, we need to know how to get to it. And we get to it by typing in the address of that island. It's kind of like our compass, right? So for example, let's call this server, let's call it my server that I built. And let's say it's igobymj.com. Sweet. Okay. And how do we get to that server, right? Sometimes it would be, not sometimes, if you wanted to get to my server, you would type in http : I go by mj.com. And if you wanted to go to my blog, you would type in /blog. Okay? And that's a specific resource on my server. When you want to get something from an island that the server contains, you have to know where on the client to get it from. And this is, as I mentioned, the client-server relationship. This is the client, and let's say this is us right here, this guy, and we want to get information from igobymj.com. As you see here, all islands have ports on them where you go to for specific information. And some of these ports are used for different things. So in our example, let's call this port right here HTTP. And let's call the second port HTTP's sister, more secure sister, HTTPS. And the S stands for secure, not sister. And this third port over here, let's call that FTP, or File Transfer Protocol. And all of these are protocols, and in order to get specific information to do specific things, you need to know how to communicate with those protocols, as we mentioned. On igobymj.com, the port HTTP is, just to backtrack, all these ports have specific numbers to them, right? And usually they're standard numbers that are given. And we have the option to give a port a number anywhere from 1 to 65,535, right? But usually for port HTTP, which is the one that we're discussing today, that's port 80. And for HTTPS, which, as I mentioned, is more secure, is port 443, right? And for FTP, that's port 69. All right, but HTTP is used for web traffic. I want to access a website. As mentioned, you see it on your browser, HTTP or HTTPS : whatever the site you're going to. And just to dive in a little bit more, what HTTP is it creates a, hey, I want this, let's see if you have it and give it back to me, okay? So in order for that to happen, I take my little boat and I travel all the way to HTTP and I start this protocol, this communication, and we start conducting a request and response kind of vibe. So you go there and you talk to the islanders, and the islanders are like, hey, what do you want? And you're saying, hey, I want to do, you bring them your manifest, if you will. These are the things I'm here to do, or these are the things I'm here to get. Do you have them? And then the islanders either say yes, no, maybe it's actually moved over there, or there's a whole bunch of different responses that the islanders, the people on the server, will respond with. So let's dive into that as well. All right, cool. Here we go. We are going to go over HTTP in the browser itself. And to do that, we're going to use a proxy, which is a way to intercept the traffic before it goes to the server and before it comes back to the client, in this case, the Firefox browser. Okay, all right. So we're using Firefox with this proxy, Burp Suite. This is the community edition. And as you see, Firefox also has Burp here, so it can intercept the traffic. All right, so for HTTP, we're going to see what it looks like, yeah? All right, so let's go to HTTP, I go by mj.com it's actually slash post and not slash blog, but it's the same message, same thing. So boom. And look at that. And this is what a HTTP request looks like to HTTP. I go by mj.com on port 80. And this is the actual address that is going to. The first thing you'll notice is this get request. And these are the verbs used to tell the server what it is that we want. There are different ones that we could go over. There are get, post, put, and delete. I think those are like the high level ones. And then below that, you see the host, which is once again where we're going to. And the reason for this is a server, which is this address. I could have multiple websites, multiple hosts on this address. And the I go by mj.com is saying, hey, give me this one. And then you'll see on the next line, the user agent, which is the client that we're using to connect to the server. And in this instance, it's Firefox version 68.0. And then accept is saying, hey, as the island, as the client, these are all the things that we accept. We accept text, XML, and whatever this stuff is. The languages that we accept, US English. Encoding, accept encoding is ways that we could like shrink the traffic going between us so that it's able to take up less space when it's traveling between the islands. And that's pretty much it of consequence, I would say. And then there is a line, an empty line underneath to say, hey, this is the end of this request. So I'm going to forward this, and I have port 80 open, but I also have a redirect from port 80 to port 443 automatically. So you'll see it in a second. So boom. As you see here, this is the response back from my server telling me, hey, listen, this resource that you're looking for is moved permanently. If you want to get it, it's at this location. And it's at https I go by mj.com/post. Yeah? And there's some additional information here. As you see, my website is protected by Cloudflare to help against any malicious attempts at my server. So boom. So now it's going back out again and saying, hey, my bad. I see that you wanted to do HTTPS. So let's get HTTPS instead. And this is just basically another request, but this time to the secure HTTPS. And here we see the response again, saying that it's moved permanently. I guess because there's a / at the end. So let's forward that. And now we do another request to the place where it's moved to with the / at the end. And finally, we get our legit response of what we're looking for. We get the HTTP, and this is the version that it's using. In this case, it's HTTP version 2. We get the status code, which we'll go over as well, 200, which is okay. We get the date when this was this request and response happened, the content typed, what kind of content you're receiving, and additional security stuff that we don't need to go over. And also, what's returned to us is what the website is serving up. So in this instance, you see HTML document with a whole bunch of stuff on it related to my blog. So we'll forward that. And There's some more stuff. So when you're getting stuff from a server, sometimes it's not just static content. You could have pictures on there. You could have instructions of how to render the page, and that's what this is. .css is how we render the page. Hey, I want this page to look pretty, and this is how you do it. That's all being received back when you send a request to a specific resource, if that resource has that there. As you're going through it, you see logo.png. That's what is returning back. These are images. It's a PNG. It looks like nonsense because it's not being read in the proxy, but all this data means it's an image. So boom, you see that we're going to forward this response and the logo comes up. Favicon said not found. This is another response, 404, which means the server is saying, hey, whatever you just requested, that's not found. That's your bad. You messed up somehow. The people on the island are like, hey, listen, we can't find that. And we'll go over some more responses as well. So the favicon, which is the little logo on my website, that can't be found. And also the blog header can't be found, another 404. And some more things can't be found. But there you go. And that's it for the requesting for the blog, right? All right, so let's dive in a little bit more into the request and response status codes and the HTTP methods like get, post, put, and delete. All right, so we're back. And just to recap what we just saw during that request and response sequence between the client and my island, aka my server. When I sent that request, you saw all the that get, then you saw the host, you also saw the path, and you saw some additional information. That is called the header. And what the header does is say, hey, server, I am looking for this specific resource. I want this information. Do you have it or not? And the method that was used in that instance was get, but there are other methods that we could use as well besides get. We also have the post, which is basically saying, hey, I want to put something on this island. And I usually think about it as post, like I'm posting up on the block. I am posting something to your server, to your island. The other one is the put method, which put. And it's similar to post, where I'm not just putting something new, I am editing what I had there before, or whatever somebody else had there before, if you have the authority or the privileges to do that. So put is like, hey, I want to edit something that is already on the island. And the other one is kind of self-explanatory, but it's delete. And what delete is saying is, I'm going to delete a resource on your server/island. And I hope this island analogy is not annoying to you. So we also saw that when we sent the request, we got a response back. And what we saw was a 200 okay, right? But there are other kinds of status code responses that we can get back. Anything from 100 to 199 is informational, right? Anything from 200 to 299 is basically the server saying, hey, that's a success. Whatever you just did worked. Cool. And from 300 to 399, that is a redirect. And we saw that when we were going to /post, it redirected to the HTTPS version of my website, which is more secure. And then there is 400 to 499, and that's saying, hey, your client messed up somehow. Maybe you messed up on the request, whatever the case is. We don't understand what you're talking about. And that is the server saying that. And then last, but certainly not least, is, I get a lot of these when I mess something up, is the 500 to 599, which is the server errors, right? The server has something wrong with it, and the server is saying, hey, we messed up somehow. Probably not going to divulge too much information, because then you will know a little bit about why we're messing up and you could probably take advantage of it. But the 500 to the 599 are for the server issues, right? And some common ones are 200. You saw that 200 is okay. Another one you might see is when you post something, 201 created. A 301, we saw that in the example, is a permanent redirect. The thing that you're looking for is no longer here. 400 is a bad request. You messed up somehow, and that's on the client messed up. The 404 is page not found. We saw some of those when we were trying to get the favicon and some other resources. And the 500 is a server error. And to be exact, that's a service error. The server doesn't know what to do with your request, just to name a few. Cool. So we're going to end this session with a little quiz. And that quiz is just 3 questions, and it's just good to cement the stuff that you have learned so far, yeah? So, number 1, what part of HTTP is sent to the server to let the server know what it is that you want to do? And the correct answer is header. All right, moving on to question number 2. The HTTP response code for page not found. And the correct answer would be 404, page not found. And finally, thanks for sticking around for so long. The HTTP method for updating data. Sweet. And if you have guessed put, you would be correct. Thanks for playing along. Sweet. So thanks for tuning in. A lot of the stuff I covered today can be found on Try Hack Me. The link to that is, I'll share that with you. If this is on YouTube, it'll be shared below. For my friends and family at New Vision, I'll share that in the group chat. So once again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for paying attention. And I hope this was informative and provided some value. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.